Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Buckle up. You're in for special guest today. Before I introduce our guest, here's a quote that I picked just for this episode. You can't manage other people unless you manage yourself first. Peter Drucker, our guest today, recently introduced to me by a great friend of the show, the one and only Alex Rawdon, has actually been,
Very
has an
good.
amazing background in companies like Vanguard and Merck and Bristol Myers Squibb, if I'm saying
Yep.
that right,
Yep. Yep.
as a cross between has experience from a systems thinking and leadership and self-awareness.
Yeah.
Founder of Coaching by the Book, Booker Farrior is an executive coach, former enterprise operator for some of these large organizations, and has is found has been foundational, I would say, in helping leaders with manage themselves and be the CEO of their own lives. I've been
Yes.
watching your YouTube, Booker, and thanks for coming on the Culture Matters podcast. I'm so
Thank you
excited.
for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to dive into this conversation.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. What episode is this?
Oh boy.
You've
We're
been
we're
doing
getting
it a
close to
while.
1100. We're getting close to 1100.
Okay. Nice.
So thanks.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I you know what? I thought you liked me better. You made me wait 1100. All right.
1100 is my lucky number. We're good.
Now, you started in industrial engineering. So, what do you say
Yes.
to the listeners that are thinking, hold on a second, I'm going to hire an electrical engineer to help me be a better manager person? Did I hear that right?
Engineers are phenomenal. Engineering teaches you to solve problems, and there are problems everywhere. And so I didn't totally appreciate it at the time, but absolutely appreciate the training now. And I say that my father was a mechanical engineer. I was good in math and science. He's like, hey, you're going to be an engineer. I did an engineering program through junior high and high school. My high school was engineering and science,
Hmm.
right? So I had engineering drilled into my brain from like seventh grade on. I get to college and I'm like, you know what? I don't really like this. So, uh, but I could do it, right? I
And it
was
was
smart enough to,
industrial engineering, right? I think I
it was
said
industrial
electrical.
engineering, yeah. And actually, it was funny. I sort of landed into industrial engineering because there was electrical. I didn't want to do, physics, mechanical, chemical. Didn't want to do chemistry. I just started knocking out the various disciplines of engineering. And industrial was two reasons. One was it was the probably in my mind the easiest to transition to business. And then the other was industrial engineering back then had three primary focuses. There's a lot more now, but back then it was like um, operations improvement was one, quality was another, like Deming, and then the third was like human factors, which was this integration between man and machine. And within that, it was, sort of this applied behavioral science, the psychology, and how it aligned with machines. And so that probably should have been a tip for me way back then. But
Wow.
those were like the two reasons why I liked industrial. And then just the career just changed jobs in a variety of different ways, but always solving problems. And so I'm always grateful for that education.
You manage complex global teams,
Yep.
logistics.
Yes.
Today, when it comes to coaching leaders, people that are moving through their career within organization,
Yep.
are there invaluable assets that you picked up through that experience
Oh my
on the
gosh.
systems and organizational side that may, yeah, I'm curious on that part of the equation.
Yes. Absolutely. So my career spans supply chain, 8 companies, 5 industries.
Wow.
And so my first job out of college, even in college, I interned at IBM, huge company. First job out of college was UPS. UPS has close to 500,000 employees. I also was number 42 at a startup. And so I've worked big, small, public, private, logistics, energy, finance, pharma, professional services, right? I was a consultant. And so all of those experiences have helped me, right, in terms of what I do now. But it just exposed me so many different things.
Have you ever
And
read
even to
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
no, I'm aware of it, but I haven't read it.
I feel like Churchill. Don't interrupt me while I'm interrupting. Please finish your thought, and I'll bring back that
No, 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 no. What is it?
42. It's like the now you
Oh.
can't read it, but it's the end of the book. It's were you a hitchhiker fan? That's why. Oh, I got to be the 42nd employee in the book. That's like the computer says the meaning
The
of
answer
life
to
is
anything is
42.
42, right? Something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's why I know. Okay. So, no, all those experiences have just helped me in terms of clients today. And especially, the world is small, right? Technology allows us to touch the other side of the world. Everybody has to do more with less. And so being in those environments, many of them transformational exercises, has been really beneficial.
A startup with a couple dozen people versus an IBM, some glaring differences in organization from your experience. What stands out in looking back?
The bigger companies, the bigger companies and more mature companies process. They have multiple people for certain departments, right? Whereas when I was in the startup, and this was during the dot-com era, I mean, Jay, I was driving 103 miles one way. It was 2.5 hours
Oh,
to get to work, right?
wow.
I was in the uh, Delaware County and PA driving to Parsippany, New Jersey, right? I'd leave at
That's how I grew
5:30
up.
in the morning to get there at 8. And this was back when overnight DJ was still on at 5:30, right? And so,
Wow,
you know,
wow,
and
wow.
so, but in a startup environment, you're doing multiple things. You're playing multiple roles. And so it was like, hey, get your hands dirty, roll your sleeves up, and you're a doer as well. And so from that standpoint, you see the differences, you see the sense of urgency, you see the energy. Yeah. And that was just an exciting time anyway. But you absolutely see just the maturity in terms of infrastructure, number of resources that a company can put towards a particular issue, process, department, what have you. Definitely some differences. Absolutely.
How do you see those larger organizations? What are some of the things that those larger organizations do to invest into their people?
So that is a big um I've seen it and recited this way. Many companies will say your career is employee owned, manager supported, and company enabled. And so the
Hmm.
company is like, hey, you own your career. We will provide resources. We will provide training. We will provide development. We'll provide stretch opportunities. We'll provide rotational assignments, things of that sort, as a way to develop the employee.
Employee owned, manager supported, company enabled.
Yes. That is the mantra of a lot of Fortune 500 companies, something along those lines in terms of how they look at career development for employees.
In terms of what you do today as executive coach, serve, what, am I saying this right? Servant to leadership
Hmm.
involving.
Yep.
Where do you fit in that employee owned, manager supported, company enabled? And why is what you do valuable to the organization in your view?
Yeah, I fit in it absolutely. I fit in it from supporting the employee as well as being a partner of the company to support the employee. Right. So one of my big philosophies, and this was imparted to me by my father, was, he worked for IBM for about 30 years. I talked to you before, I have a book coming out later, and I actually
What's
uh
the book called?
uh uh you got me drawing a blank. It's your career, own it.
Love it. Wow.
Because I'm really big on, J Duran LLC, right? J Duran Incorporated, right? You're the CEO of your career. And so he worked for IBM for about 30 years. And, I was starting out at UPS, UPS and IBM back then were very similar, fantastic Fortune 100 companies. Once you got in, you really didn't leave, great career development, things of that sort. But I just couldn't see myself there after a couple years running the same path, right? Running the same playbook. And so I asked my dad, I said, hey, how were you able to stay at IBM for so long
Hmm.
and still be true to yourself, not get bored, all those different types of things? And he's like, hey, that's easy. I work for myself. IBM just pays me. It's like, what kind of Yoda-esque type of insight is that, right? But he was saying, hey, you need to be the CEO of your career. You need to
Wow.
look at yourself as a company and manage your career as a company. And so that means something I might do as Booker Farrior, the employee, is different than what I might do as Booker Farrior Incorporated. So when a company says your career is employee owned, you own a company, right? When it says it's manager supported and company enabled, they enable it by having partners like me, executive coaches, leadership advisors, to help the employees. And so that's how I fit.
What are some things you see organizations do, whether intentionally or unintentionally, that disable manager?
Now, it's a good question. Um,
Yeah, I'm just
I,
laughing because I'm thinking about the company saying, "No, we're disabling, we're unsupportive, here's how we do it."
right.
But really, these are things that go on. So what have you seen, or what do you see of how they do that?
Yeah, it's part is if one, they're not even really intentional in terms of how they support their employees. A lot of them will have programs, but they may not provide guidance, or they may give a lot of the ownership to the employee to say, "Hey, figure it out and come to us when you need help." I've worked for some great companies that have some excellent leadership development programs and support in that sense. What I've seen are where companies fall down is that there isn't necessarily an intentionality behind it. There isn't a strong structure behind it. There isn't a robust feedback mechanism behind it. And so, employees are sort of out there like, okay, I've got these resources available to me, but how am I supposed to use them? Where's the support? Where's the mentoring? Where's the coaching? That type of thing. And so it's almost like it's a check the box. We have all these resources for you, but we don't necessarily help you from a strategic and intentional standpoint on how to use them and how to leverage them to improve your career.
Structures, feedback loops, or
Oh,
feedback.
yes.
I thought
Yeah.
I wrote because we don't want company disabled, manager unsupported, unsupportive, employee. Yeah, what happened? What's the word there? Is what
Employee
happens?
outsourced.
Go ahead.
Employee outsourced. You want employee owned, not employee outsourced,
What
right?
do you mean by that? Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Well, employee owned says, hey, you have ownership of your career. Some companies, if they're not holding that position, the employee is actually leaving it up to the career to help them develop and to be the leader of their development where the employee should be. And so
Hmm.
they're almost outsourcing their career development to the company. They shouldn't do that.
How can our listeners that are in
Yep.
an organization, what are some of the ways that they can look at being the CEO of their life to take on that responsibility, to have the best career?
Yeah. But think about a company, right? Right. Think about a company knows the product that they're selling, right? So they know their product, they know the value that their product delivers, they know their customers, a company knows their competitors, they know their marketing and branding campaign, they know how their product is evaluated. Now replace product with yourself. Do you know your value? Do you know your customers? Do you know what your brand is? Do you know how you're marketed? Right? It is truly almost being
Hmm.
objective and detached in a way and say, how would I run my business if it was a business, right? How would I run my career if it was a business? You look at Starbucks, you look at Nike, you look at Disney, consistent branding. You ever see a misspelled word in any of their marketing?
Who?
Disney, Starbucks, Nike. Ever see a misspelled word?
Oh, a misspelled word.
Yeah.
No,
No, right?
no.
So maybe as J Duran Incorporated, you might read that email 3 times before sending it, right? It's like really think about yourself as a business. Think about how successful businesses are run and apply those principles to your career.
Mm.
That's how I look at career development. That's how I coach my clients.
Are people so um I don't the data people are staying people are moving. Is it true that people are moving companies more faster?
Oh, absolutely.
They're staying at companies for shorter periods of time.
In general, yes, the trend absolutely, I should say, be going down in terms of the amount of time that they stay at a company. I say in general, in terms of
Mm.
the trend line. It is a little bit different right now as we speak because there's so many different layoffs. The companies more or less have the power than they did before during the pandemic. And so people are staying at companies a little bit longer. But in general, the trend in terms of the amount of time that they stay at a company is coming down. Absolutely.
In terms of people that you work with and them looking at their career as a CEO, is that what does that have a relationship with whether they decide to stay longer or what's your take on that?
Yes. So a lot of times I'll say, is it a coincidence, causation, or correlation? Right? And this is probably a correlation, right? When people start to look at their careers as a company, they recognize that they're the best option for their company may not be their current organization, right? And so when they look at, you know what, I have, think about it, companies look globally for employees, they look internally for talent, they look externally for talent. As an employee, if you're looking at yourself as an organization, do the same thing.
Hmm. I
And
was
what that
watching.
does
Oh, go
is,
ahead.
well, one, the employee is really taking ownership of their career, but then the companies also are saying, we love this sort of entrepreneurship that employees have because employees are now taking ownership of their career. You know, they really feel like they have ownership of their portfolio within the organization. They're going to be creative. They're going to be innovative. They're going to look out. They're going to see what's the best thing they can do for the organization that they work for, because they recognize that they're going to have opportunities, right? What's one of the biggest things you hear companies say about the employees? Like they want them to have ownership of, they want them to feel like they're owner of the
Okay.
business,
So
right?
is it they want them to take more responsibility, however, they may not be uh providing them the support to actually do that, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was watching
I
one
can
of
help
your,
the employee with that. I help the company with that. Absolutely.
I was watching one of your videos. Can you elaborate on this, the antecedent behavior consequence? I thought that was awesome.
Oh, yes. Yes. So when I got exposed to coaching probably about 15 years ago or so, we would there was a program and it was like, hey, you want to sign up, you can be this internal coach to coach the senior leaders. And in essence, it was if we wanted to change the behavior of an employee, we actually coached the leader. So we wanted to make sure that the leader was providing the right type of environment, providing the right type of development opportunities, providing the right type of feedback. And one of the frameworks we used was the ABC framework, antecedent, behavior, consequence. So the best example is this. Excuse me, we have a little kid. You tell a little kid, hey, don't touch the hot stove because you're going to get burned. You're giving direction. That's the antecedent. It happens before the behavior. The kid touches the hot stove. That's the behavior. The kid gets burned. That's the consequence. Antecedent, behavior, consequence. A consequence is 4 times more effective in changing behavior than the antecedent is. So the next time the kid comes across a hot stove, they're going to remember the consequence. that they got burned last time, and that'll change behavior. That, in essence, is feedback. Feedback is a consequence, positive feedback or constructive feedback, right? We can either get feedback that encourages the behavior we want to see or discourages the behavior we don't want to see. And so, in essence, that ABC framework is about how you give feedback, either antecedent before the behavior occurs or consequence after the behavior occurs.
Yeah, you taught me something, and this I haven't thought in it this way. I'd like your thoughts on this. Like core values become they mean nothing if they're not enforced because they're an antecedent then. They're coming before. It's
Yes.
like this
Yeah.
is what we value. But
Right.
you said four, I've never heard of this statistic that or this fact. Four times the result, the consequence.
The feedback, so consequence is four times more effective than the antecedent.
Consequence is four times more effective than the antecedent.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Because you can either encourage the behavior you want or discourage the behavior you don't want. And so now think about exchange the word consequence with feedback. Feedback is powerful. Whether or not you are encouraging the behavior with, hey, way to go. I really like the way that you performed in this meeting because of A, B, and C. Or you're discouraging the behavior you didn't want to see, right? By saying, hey, you did this. What good looks like is X. So let's do less of what you did and do more of what good looks like, right? That is more effective feedback.
Our listeners want to be the CEO of their life.
Yep,
How can they incorporate this thinking into how they uh, navigate their roles,
absolutely.
their responsibilities?
Absolutely. Absolutely. First thing I would ask is what value do you provide to your customers in your organization? And your customers are, if you're a leader, could be your team, could be your peers, could be your boss, could be your stakeholders, could be your project team members. Like, what value are you bringing to the table? Can you identify the value you provide? Because every company can identify the value that they bring to their customers.
Have you found when you're working with teams, because you put together leadership workshops, correct, and do
Yep.
executive coaching
Yep.
and go before a group. So do you find uh, that people don't know what value they provide? That's like an aha moment for people.
It is an aha moment for people. And it's an aha moment for a couple of reasons. So, one of the things we like to do is sometimes the value we think we bring may not be the value that other people see,
Are
right?
you talking to my wife? Hold on.
And so we like to, I'm one of the assessments that I facilitate, the Hogan assessment. When we review the results, one of the things we always say is, look, identity is who we think we are. Reputation is who they think we are. Character is who we really are. So identity is who we think we are. Reputation is who they think we are. Character is who we really are. The closer that those three dimensions are aligned, the higher probability you have of showing up the way you want to show up. The more that those three dimensions are misaligned, you have blind spots and potentially derailing behaviors, which can derail relationships, which can derail careers. And so, really understanding how you're viewed by others is important. So, understanding how others view your value is extremely important in terms of progressing in your career.
I want to make sure I'm following you. Identity is who we think we are. Reputation is what other people think we are, and character is who we actually.
Yes.
There's a gap there.
It could be,
There's
yeah.
there could
Yeah.
be a break there,
Yeah.
misalignment there.
Yes. And so, the one of the easy ways to test this theory, or to not to test the theory, but to test how people see us, is describe yourself in 3 words, and then ask those you work with the most to describe you in 3 words.
Hmm.
And now you want to see how close or how far apart are those descriptions. Are they in the same state? Are they in the same city, same neighborhood, same block, same house, same floor, same room? Or are they halfway across the world? Right?
Powerful. Stay now. When people go through a process like this, whether in
Yep.
group or individual, what happens to them?
So there's a bit of self-awareness. And I don't know if you've ever done a 360, or if you've done something and someone's like, wow, I didn't see it like that. Or you got a piece of feedback, or you were described by somebody by something you just had no idea that's how you were coming off. It becomes an epiphany for them. It becomes a revelation for them. And they can either like it or not like it. And it's like, okay,
Mm.
how do I close this gap?
The word self, yeah, or the idea of self-awareness is talked about is pop culture in a or it's what is it? That's my interpretation of it, that it's talked about a lot or it's part of the
Yeah,
cultural, the pop culture today.
that's fair.
In your view, what's the value of self-awareness as it relates to performance, production, company culture, these leadership?
Yeah.
What does it actually mean? What does it do for people? Or what's it do for the organization? Those are like a bunch of questions. I should take one of those self-awareness tests after this. I'm glad this is recorded. It's just
Yeah.
fine. Um,
So it's interesting you said pop culture, right? And I think part of it now is um, everybody is a brand, right? Everybody is concerned with how they show up, right? And so being aware of how you're perceived, whether or not that's measured by likes or shares or clicks, whatever it is, people are or have a much greater self-awareness of how they're viewed, right? Because of social media and the platforms that we all have to expose a portion of our lives out there, right? And so people want to for a lot, want to project their best selves, right? And so they're absolutely tuned into sort of that self-awareness. From a professional perspective, it's something I'll call the 2 scorecards. The first scorecard is the easy stuff that gets measured, right? It's what you would cover in a performance review. Like, hey, did you hit your deliverables? How are your projects coming along? Did you hit all your KPIs and your metrics? Like, that's the easy scorecard that most of us or all of us are familiar with, and the ones where we put a lot of time, love, effort, and energy behind to make sure that that scorecard, which is the most visible scorecard, is showing all greens, right? Then you have the second scorecard, and that scorecard is the one that determines your career progression. And now those are different dimensions about, hey, how are you evaluated? How are you interpreted? Um, how are you viewed, right? What story is being told about yourself? Like those different types of dimensions. And so part of my coaching practice is revealing that second scorecard to folks because they say, hey, you're doing great on the scorecard one. And you're like, oh, my stuff is green. Why am I not getting promoted? It's because you're getting evaluated on scorecard two. And you don't even know scorecard two exists. And so that's what I end up coaching a lot of folks on.
when people start taking a scorecard too, how that's how they're viewed, how they're interpreted, evaluated
Yep.
on who they are.
Yeah. Yes.
When people
And how
start
they're
paying
showing up.
how they're showing up, how others see them,
Yes.
when people start taking putting their attention on that, being intentional around that, what can happen or what happens to their careers, to their trajectories in organization?
Oh. They understand how the game is played. And all of a sudden when they understand that second scorecard and they understand how they're scored on that second scorecard, they now can be strategic and intentional about how they manage their career. They can show up in the right rooms. They can make sure that the stories told about them are reflecting the things that they want reflected. They can make sure that they have advocates and sponsors to take their story forward in rooms that they're not in, right? They can make sure that when opportunities present themselves, they're ready and people are naming them for those opportunities. All that stuff is real, but a lot of people don't know it.
Do you see people unconsciously sabotage their career?
Yes. Yeah. It's funny. I was at a conference, a workshop earlier today with clients, leadership development uh, program, and the CEO of the company talked about how sort of just this point where when you're in an expensive store, it's like if you have to ask how much it costs, you can't afford it, right?
Yeah.
These things like if you have to ask about the second scorecard, you're not even being considered because you don't even know all what's being evaluated about you. And so I want people to have an opportunity to have the chance to progress in their career, get promoted, right? Because
Can the
how many?
best people get passed over?
Oh, absolutely. Because they don't understand the second scorecard. Like, how many times have you seen someone or know someone that is better, smarter, faster, but they don't get the job? It's because they were operating off of scorecard one. They were measuring speed, they were measuring output, they were measuring, metrics. They weren't measuring the other stuff, right? A lot of people don't know about scorecard two, and even the ones that do know about it don't necessarily understand how to navigate it. And so that's probably one of the biggest things that I do as an executive coach. And the epiphany in the moment is what gets me going.
How can it impact someone's life for their career to work for them?
Fulfillment, um, compensation, forget about it. I mean, imagine someone who at that VP level, that director, senior director, executive director, VP level, whatever, who misses out on a promotion by a year, maybe two.
Mm.
All of a sudden, they're behind, they've missed out on double digit raises, hundreds of thousands of dollars in bonuses, and accumulated millions of dollars of, long-term incentives. It's significant. It is absolutely significant. It may not seem like it now, like the old adage,
Yeah.
if you're sailing and you're off by 1 degree, when you start out, you can't really tell it, but you keep going further, you're thousands of miles away from your destination. It's the same thing with miscompensation.
So part of the role you're playing with organization that as far as manager supported, coming alongside that manager with that team member, the CEO of their life, right? They're taking responsibility for their career is that what I'm learning is scorecard one, deliverables, projects, KPIs, what they do, where their attention may be, doesn't necessarily have a causal relationship with their career taking off. There are these unforeseen
Right.
elements that maybe
Yes.
that, and you're coming alongside them and helping them see that so that they can get those two
Correct.
years,
Exactly.
be on that track.
Yes. Yes.
That's pretty amazing to think of it, to think about people's career. Um, wow. Where does oh, is leadership more from this? Is leadership, in your view, more about how you think or how you act? Or would you phrase it a
Leadership more
different?
about how you think of them. I mean, the most common way of describing leadership is managers do things right, leaders do the right thing, right? And so the ability to identify, you know, all the options, pick the right option, and execute is what I think separates leaders, right? So if you think about it from a sports perspective, right? If you talk about football, a quarterback has calls the play, looks at all the options, makes the right pass, and continues to march down the field until they score, right? Leadership in a sense is, hey, do you see the field? Do you see the options? Do you make the right call? Do you make the right option? And do you continue to move towards your goal, right?
From what you've taught me from this episode, I think that if we're going to talk sports for a second here, that the Eagles players are in zone one and the fans are in zone two, and the fans need you. I need my wife to listen to this episode. It's going to change our dynamic. I love what the work that you do. I mean, that's
I'm living the dream, Jay. I'm living the
this
dream.
is because we're for any football fans out there. Um,
Go Birds.
yes, I can appreciate the passion. I do. Yes, but um, yeah, I when team meetings,
Okay.
in your experience, what are some ways that those in positions of authority, you talked about, the manager, the leader, um, unintentionally don't get the most out of a team meeting?
Good question. So I had a leader. Uh, she did this. So have you heard of the book Strength Finders?
I have, yes.
Okay. She had her leadership team, which I was a part of, all do the Strength Finders assessment. And then we mapped our top five strengths. And based off of that, she saw where we had strength and abundance, and she saw where we had gaps. And she was then able to pair us up and match us up based off of the different strengths that we had.
Hmm.
And so she was very strategic and insightful in terms of, hey, I want to get the most out of this leadership team, but I need to understand where their strengths are and where we have gaps individually and collectively. And now let me, assign them to different strategic initiatives that we have based off of that. So I worked with one partner. She was fantastic at driving things through. Like she got stuff done like that. She was a killer in that sense. And one of my top was like futuristic and strategic in a sense, right? Now we could both do each other's strengths, but you put us together, we were executing some really good strategic initiatives. And so to take it back to your question, when a leader doesn't understand the strengths and the opportunity areas for their teams, then they may not get the best out of those teams, right? When you want your team to be high performing, and so introverts and extroverts, right? Um, Introverts like to have time to pre-read and digest and synthesize so that they can have some well thought out responses to what's being discussed.
Hmm.
Extroverts are the opposite. They can, think out loud. Well, if you only manage one versus the other's not going to do that great. And so I had a different leader who recognized that she had introverts on her team. So she always made sure, like, hey, if we're doing anything in a meeting, we're sending out pre-reads. She wanted to make sure everybody's engaged and had a chance to digest. And so it's like an effective leader is going to understand the strengths of his or her team and then lead accordingly.
Understand the strengths. I think I've taken a couple of those. One learner was up there. I don't know the five though. I'd like to
Oh
learn.
yeah,
I'd
yep,
like to
absolutely.
explore
Learner's
on
one
the
of mine.
five.
Yep,
Yeah, well, we get along. It makes sense.
absolutely.
Unlearners, the unlearned. No, no. Yeah, they test my humility. Yeah. Um, oh, I wanted to ask about identity,
Yep,
reputation, character. Do you see is which one matters most in career or
reputation. They all matter, but that second scorecard are those in power evaluating you, and your
oh,
reputation is,
okay.
how do people interpret you, and how do people interpret the value you provide? Look, when I was 10, I was the fastest kid in the 100-yard dash in the city of Philadelphia
Wow.
until I got timed.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I wasn't, right?
That's funny.
In my
I
mind, I was until someone else measured it, right?
My reputation is gullible.
But you know what I mean? Others determine. Doesn't matter what we think. Others determine it. I mean, it matters, but it matters more. Reputation is the biggest factor in terms of advancement in that sense. We're putting aside all the stuff like if you're a bad person stuff, we're putting all that stuff aside, right? But if you want to say how I think I am versus how somebody else thinks I am, it's everybody else that's making a determination about you based off of scorecard one and scorecard two, right? And if you don't even know scorecard two exists, and that's how they're evaluating you, that's where I'm getting at.
And if I'm going to be the CEO of my career, what is my value? Who are my customers? Or what is my product? Who are my customers? How am I showing up? So,
Yep,
because is it that how I show up is being recognized. People are
yep,
watching. They're watching
yep,
how I show up.
yep.
Um, can can someone win in the long term if they're misaligned?
Um, it's relative. Uh, if you mean character, identity, and reputation are misaligned,
Yeah, well,
because they're
yeah,
opening themselves up
because I'm
for,
thinking there's the person and then there's the person in the organization.
right. Yeah.
There's two
Yeah.
there's
It's one of those things where, yes, however, your chances are less if there's misalignment, right? Because if who you think you are and who they think you are is misaligned, that either means that you have blind spots as it pertains to how you're being perceived, or you understand where the differences are, but you're choosing not to do anything about it, right?
what are organizations struggling with most today, from what your experience working with them around these on these conversations with
A
team
couple
members?
things. It's a couple things. One is we talked early about globalization, right? So one is many leaders are lacking the ability to manage globally, to manage some extended teams, right?
Mm.
Really managing across borders. So that's one. Two, it's interesting. We had some clients where they are IT professionals who typically would do their work, hand over the final deliverable to their business stakeholder, and move on to the next thing. And now with AI and technology and everything else moving as fast as it is, the business stakeholder is saying, you know what? I need you at my table. I need you to be a business partner to me. So you're not just handing this off to me. I need you to show up and guide us and walk us through this. And a lot of IT professionals like, whoa, I didn't know I had to do that. And so now the ability to how to show up as a business partner, how to influence and persuade without direct authority is a big skill gap that we're seeing. And then thirdly,
Oh.
And I was just speaking to a CEO of a pharma company, and he said it's interesting how there is a shorter attention span now. People have shorter attention spans. And so when you have a shorter attention span, you're not as intellectually curious. When you're not as intellectually curious, you're not asking questions. When you're not asking questions, you're not being creative and innovative. And so by having a short attention span, it is absolutely downstream impacting innovation in companies, right? There's a movie, I was just talking about this today. There's a movie that came out, I want to say, end of last year with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. It was something on Netflix, I think. And they had to repeat in the movie, they had to repeat the plot of the movie a couple of times because they knew people would be on their phones at home while they're watching the movie,
Wow.
right? So this lack of attention span impacts in the terms of you're not actively listening. So if you're not actively listening, you're not asking questions, you're not curious, and it just impacts all the way down to innovation.
What year did you recognize that your dad said I'm the C he said what did he say? I'm the
I'm this he
my
said I work
company.
for myself, IBM just pays me.
Yeah, I work for myself. I mean, what year was that?
That was 93. 93 or
Man,
94.
what a powerful foreshadow for where the world went.
Yes,
I mean, that is
absolutely.
so unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Um, uh, wow. The reason that because um one of our guests, Glenn Yopes, has a book on this, the age of personalization.
Okay.
And so I'd love like essentially more that I work for myself, the company just pays me. I mean, that's becoming more and more and more and more true on the most fundamental level. I could see where the work that you do becomes so valuable to companies because are the people engaged?
Exactly.
What does
Exactly.
engagement even mean in the year 2032? What does it even mean? But you lit up there. Why is that word exciting to you? Because I'd like to unpack that word a bit. Engagement. What does that actually mean? And for the entrepreneurs listening to this that have team members,
Yeah.
like
Uh, I've had a couple clients where, well, before I talk about the clients, in general, you may have seen where some folks don't want to go into leadership. They don't want to deal with all of what comes with leadership, solving other people's problems, having responsibility, writing up the mid-year and the year ends. The additional responsibility and weight that comes with leadership for, in their mind, not the big enough bump from a compensation perspective. So for them, the juice is not worth the squeeze. That's number one. Number two, everybody has a side hustle, right? And so from a compensation perspective, you're like, well, if you're telling me if I become a leader, I'm gonna make single digit X more, but I'm making three times that based off my side hustle, I'm gonna do what I just have to do. And so the engagement is, it's discretionary effort. Have to versus want to. The difference between have to and want to is discretionary effort. And so part you're saying lower discretionary effort because I'm doing what I have to do. I'm sort of here because compensation wise, I've got other things going on. And so I don't need to get a bump up from a leadership perspective. And so I've seen clients that have, I mean, a lot of people have them and they're doing fantastic, but there's others that are just like, there are other things that I'm spending my time with that I'm not I don't need to go all out before, especially if the company's going to cut me, right? That's a mindset that they're trying to battle against.
are you finding that more and more team members do have side things, side projects more than in the past?
Yeah, I think coming out of the pandemic, a lot of people started to do some things on the side. Whether or not it was passion projects that all of a sudden they're like, you know what, I'm really getting fulfillment out of this. Right. If there's one thing that came out
Yes.
of that came out of COVID, out of the pandemic was, wow, there's a lot of time I spent either commuting or what have you that they filled up with some other things. And so it is a battle I won't say it's a battle. It is factor that employees and organizations alike are navigating.
What should companies do if their talent doesn't want to, the talented people don't want to move up? What
They got to ask themselves, why is that? Why is leadership uh, positioned in a way that it's not worth the squeeze? They really got to ask themselves that. And it's going to be different for every company, right? Whether or not it's culture, whether or not it's, um, you have to do more with less, you're not going to get the resources, whatever it is, that the companies have to ask themselves, why do their employees feel that way?
is attention becoming a rarer leadership trait?
Attention, active listening. If I frame it as active listening, yes. People don't actively listen all the time.
What are some tips on how to, as I asked, well, I was about this, what are some tips on how to actively listen? But the paradox is if they're not listening right now, they're never gonna get it. Oh man, I'm glad. Yeah, we'll talk to each other here. How can I be
Yeah.
I should ask, how can I be a better active listener? I want to do the job. I'm asking. I want to know. What about the listeners?
Right.
Yeah, they're how do I, yeah, how do I, what is active listening and how d does one do that in a sharper, um,
Yeah. There are a variety of time management techniques, right?
mhm.
You might have heard the Pomodoro technique where it's like work for 25 minutes on, take a break for 5 minutes, work
No,
25 minutes, take a
wow.
break for 5 minutes, right? And it's one of those things where it's like, hey, if you understand sort of how long you can really do some deep work, and it's different for everybody, but right, this is one of the techniques is understanding that people's attention span is shortening. Understand that with all of the various things that are going off, their phones going off, the Slack channel, the Teams meeting, whatever it is, everything's going right. The reminders, everything. And so, how do you, think about how you can lead in a way that gives people mental breaks, however short, but to reset and then re-engage and focus, right?
Hmm.
And so those are one of the things I think companies can look at is to how do we understand sort of where our company's employee attention span is? How, I know everybody is doing the open floor plan, right? That can be distracting, right? So it's interesting. Like there's a lot of open floor plans, but you walk around, some companies might see a lot of people have headphones on because you're
Hmm.
trying to block out, right, while they're amidst the crowd. And so companies, I think, need to look and probably are looking at that to make sure that they're getting the most out of their employee base, right? Employees are you know, they say not the most important resource, the only resource, right? And so how are you setting up environments that allow them to really um, execute and realize the potential that we know that they have.
I'm thinking that if the one of the takeaways from this conversation for me is, uh, if I'm listening to this, I'm focused on doing my job, doing the best job possible, but I don't know how I'm being judged. I'm not even in the game. I'm in a
Could be.
completely different game that my career is impacted by. The more talented I am, I might be less likely to engage in the organization and more likely to be distracted by this thing I could do over here, this thing I would do over here.
Right.
But my opportunity to someday become CEO or is out of, it'll never happen or
Right.
ever position.
Yeah. Right. Because, a lot of people have heard, when you get evaluated, it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. And some of that second scorecard talks about how you're doing it or how you're perceived in terms of how you're doing it. Right.
Let's say that I'm listening to this and I'm thinking I'm going to book with Booker. How long should what's a what's a reasonable expectation for how long I should be committed to, um, becoming the CEO of my life. Like I'm thinking of the person that doesn't get passed over and doesn't have to wait 2 years, and that makes
Right.
a massive impact financially, socially, and
Yep.
emotionally on their livelihood. What type of expectation would I have, and how do I make a change working with someone like you?
Yeah. It's that's a really good question. So I hear a couple things within that question, right? So let me take a step back. I have something called a career ownership audit. 6 questions. I'm sorry, 12 questions across the 6 dimensions.
Hmm.
In 5 minutes, you'll understand where you are in that second scorecard, right? From that, I then talk to folks and understand, hey, we talking about one of the dimensions, we talk about multiple. Like, let's see where you are and how that is playing out in your current profession, in your current role. And then let's talk about where do you want to get to. And sometimes just taking the audit and having a conversation helps you reframe how you need to think about your career, right? I hope some folks just between our conversation is like, you know what? I need to rethink about how I'm looking at my career. And then from that, we can determine, okay, is this something that we can get in, get out? Is it like an accelerator? We can get, we can get you set up correctly, have you thinking about it strategically and intentionally in about 3 or 4 months? Or is this something that's going to take a little bit longer based off of what your goals are?
Yeah, like don't wear suspenders.
Right? It could be some
I just
basic.
need a Booker to tell me that. It's a very powerful. So yeah, I'm just thinking about Jay. This is why you're not on CNN. You keep making these jokes. Oh, shoot. Yeah, that makes sense. That's why I have this. Um, I've gotten so much from this conversation. You really a blessing getting to know you, and I think clearly I could see how this is absolutely changes someone's career trajectory
Yeah.
based on working with other people. How can people book with you, get connected with you most a aptly?
Yeah. So LinkedIn, Booker Farrior, on LinkedIn, Booker Farrior, come ACC as my coaching certification. I'm on Substack, so at Booker Farrior. So all my newsletters are on Substack, which really gets into this. Those are, and then my website is coachingbybook.com. And so those are the three easiest ways to connect with me.
If you're listening to this episode, I'll tell you, we met through a mutual friend, I think a very happy client, and I'm excited to have you back on the show.
Oh,
Hopefully in the
absolutely.
future it'll be a lot of fun. And what an important conversation today. Learned a lot. I love the ABCs, the antecedent behavior consequence.
Yeah.
It really gave me something for Culture Matters today. I want to share that testimony just today,
Yeah.
right now. This is like a live session in the sense that I've never thought of antecedent, right? Values. It's the, hey, this is what we stand for.
Yeah.
And then that consequence piece stood out for me of like values that are enforced become real. Like that's so tangible. So thank you for that today.
So can I add to that?
Oh, please. Yes.
Imagine when someone who is getting promoted does not follow the values,
Oh man, we got to do a
how
part
that
two.
makes them feel.
This is a great cliffhanger. If you want to know the answer to that, pick up the book. Your book's coming out.
Yeah.
Follow Booker, and we'll see you next time in the Culture Matters podcast. Share this with somebody you care about deeply. Don't share it with somebody you're competing with for a job. I'm just kidding. Share this with someone that you care about that wants to
Yeah.
further their career, be the CEO of their life. And we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it. Enjoyed it.